Mark chapter 13. The temple will be destroyed. As Jesus was leaving the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Teacher, look at these beautiful stones and wonderful buildings." Jesus replied, "Do you see these huge buildings? They will certainly be torn down. Not a stone will be left in place." Warning about trouble. Later, as Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives across from the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew came to him in private. They asked, "When these things happen, what will be the sign that they are about to take place?" Jesus answered, "Watch out and don't let anyone fool you. Many will come and claim to be me. They will use my name and fool my people. When you hear about wars and threats of wars, don't be afraid. These things will have to happen first, but that isn't the end. Nations and kingdoms will go to war against each other. There will be earthquakes in many places, and people will starve to death. But this is just the beginning of the troubles. Be on your guard. You'll be taken to court and beaten with whips in their synagogues. And because of me, you will have to stand before rulers and kings to tell about your faith. But before the end comes, the good news must be preached to all nations. When you are arrested, don't worry about what you will say. You'll be given the right words when the time comes, but you will not really be the ones speaking. Your words will come from the Holy Spirit. Brothers and sisters will betray each other and have each other put to death. Parents will betray their own children, and children will turn against their parents and have them killed. Everyone will hate you and because of me. But if you keep on being faithful right to the end, you will be saved. The horrible thing. Someday you will see that horrible thing where it should not be. Everyone who reads this must try to understand. If you are living in Judah at that time, turn to the mountains. If you are on the roof of your house, don't go inside to get anything. If you are out in the field, then go back for your coat. It will be an awful time for women who are expecting babies or nursing your children. Pray that it won't happen in winter. This will be the worst time of suffering since God created the world, and nothing this terrible will ever happen again. If the Lord doesn't make the time shorter, no one will be left alive. But because of His chosen and special ones, He will make the time shorter. If someone should say, "Here's the Messiah," or "There He is," don't believe it. False messiahs and false prophets will come and work miracles and signs. They will even try to fool God's chosen ones. But be on your guard. That's why I am telling you these things now. When the Son of Man appears, in those days, right after this time of suffering, the sun will become dark and the moon will no longer shine. The star will fall and the powers in the sky will be shaken. Then the Son of Man will be seen coming in the clouds with great power and glory. He will send his angels to gather his chosen ones from all over the earth. A lesson from a fig tree. Learn a lesson from a fig tree. When its branches sprout and start putting out leaves, you know summer is near. So when you see all these things happening, you know that the time has almost come. We can be sure that some of the people of his generation will still be alive when all this happens. The sky and the earth will not last forever, but my words will. No one knows the day or the time. No one knows the day or the time. The angels in heaven don't know, and the Son himself doesn't know. Only the Father knows. So watch out and be ready. You don't know when the time will come. It is like what happens when a man goes away for a while and places his servant in charge of everything. He tells each of them what to do, and he orders the guard to keep altar. So be alert. You don't know when the master of the house will come back. It could be in the evening or at midnight or before dawn or in the morning. But if he comes suddenly, don't let him find you asleep. I tell everyone just what I have told you. Be alert. Mark chapter 14. A plot to kill Jesus. It was now 2 days before Passover and the festival of thin bread. The chief priests and the teachers of the law of Moses were planning how they could sneak around and have Jesus arrested and put to death. They were saying, "You must not do it during the festival because the people will riot." At Bethany, Jesus was eating in Bethany and the home of Simon, who once had leprosy. When a woman came in with a very expensive bottle of sweet-smelling perfume, after breaking it open, she poured the perfume on Jesus' head. This made some of the guests angry, and they complained, "Why such a waste? We could have sold this perfume for more than 300 silver coins and given the money to the poor." So they started saying cruel things to the woman. But Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She had done a beautiful thing for me. I will always have the poor with you, and whenever you want to, you can give to them. But you won't always have me here with you." She has done all she could by pouring perfume on my body to prepare it for burial. You may be sure that wherever the good news is told all over the world, people will remember what she has done, and they will tell others. Judas and the chief priest. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 disciples. He went to the chief priest and offered to help them arrest Jesus. They were glad to hear this, and they promised to pay him. So Judas started looking for a good chance to betray Jesus. Jesus eats with his disciples. It was the first day of the festival of thin bread, and the Passover lambs were being killed. Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to prepare the Passover meal?" And Jesus said to two of the disciples, "Go into the city, where you will meet a man carrying a jar of water. Follow him, and when he goes into a house, say to the owners, 'Our teacher wants to know if you have a room where he can eat the Passover meal with his disciples.' The owner will take the upstairs and show you a large room, furnished and ready for you to use. Prepare the meal there." The two disciples went into the city and found everything just as Jesus had told them. So they prepared the Passover meal. While Jesus and the 12 disciples were eating together that evening, he said, "The one who will betray me is now eating with me." This made the disciples sad, and one after another they said to Jesus, "You surely don't mean me." He answered, "It is one of you 12 men who is eating for this dish with me. The Son of Man will die, just as the scriptures say, but it is going to be terrible for the one who betrays me. The man would be better off if he had never been born." The Lord's Supper. During the meal, Jesus took some bread in his hands. He blessed the bread and broke it, then gave it to his disciples and said, "Take this, it is my body." Jesus picked up a cup of wine and gave thanks to God. He gave it to his disciples, and they all drank some. Then he said, "This is my blood, which is poured out for many people," and with it God makes his agreement. "From now on, I will not drink any wine until I drink new wine in God's kingdom." Then they sang a hymn and went out of the Mount of Olives. Peter's promise. Jesus said to his disciples, "All you will reject me, as the scriptures say. I will strike down and shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered. But after I am raised to life, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter spoke up, "Even if all the others reject you, I never will." Jesus replied, "This very night, before a rooster crows twice, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." But Peter was so sure of himself that he said, "Even if I had to die with you, I will never say I don't know you." All the others said the same thing. Jesus prays. Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Capernaum, and he told them, "Sit here while I pray." Jesus took along Peter, James, and John. He was sad and troubled and told them, "I am so sad that I feel as if I am dying. Stay here and keep awake with me." Jesus walked on a little way, then he knelt down on the ground and prayed. Father, if it is possible, don't let this happen to me. Father, you can do anything. Don't make me suffer by drinking from this cup, but do what you want and not what I want. When Jesus came back and found the disciples sleeping, he said to Simon Peter, "Are you asleep? Can't you stay awake for just 1 hour? Stay awake and pray, for you won't be tested. You want to do what is right, but you are weak." Jesus went back and prayed the same prayer. But when he returned to the disciples, he found them sleeping again. They simply couldn't keep their eyes open, and they didn't know what to say. Why Jesus returned to the disciples the third time, he said, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough of this. The time has come for the Son of Man to be handed over to sinners. Get up, let's go. The one who will betray me is already here." Jesus is arrested. Jesus was still speaking when Judas, the betrayer, came up. He was one of the 12 disciples. A mob of men armed with swords and clubs were with him. They had been sent by the chief priests, the nation's leaders, and the teacher of law, Moses. Judas had told them ahead of time, "Arrest the man I agreed with a kiss. Tie him up tight and lead him away." Judas walked right up to Jesus and said, "Teacher." Then Judas kissed him, and the man grabbed Jesus and arrested him. Someone standing there pulled out a sword. He struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Jesus said to the mob, "Why do you come with sword and clubs to arrest me like a criminal? Day after day I was with you and taught in the temple, and you didn't arrest me. But what the scriptures say must come true." All of Jesus' disciples ran off and left him. One of them was a young man who was wearing only linen clothes, and when the man grabbed him, he left the clothes behind and ran away naked. Jesus is questioned by the council. Jesus was led off to the high priest, then the chief priest, the nation's leaders, and the teacher of the law of Moses all met together. Peter had followed at a distance, and when he reached the courtyard of high priest's house, he sat down with the guards to warm himself beside the fire. The chief priest and the whole council tried to find someone to accuse Jesus of crime so they could put him to death, but they couldn't find anyone to accuse him. Many people did tell lies against Jesus, but they didn't agree on what they had said. Finally, some men stood up and lied about him. They said, "We heard him say he would tear down this temple that we built." He also claimed that in the 3 days he would build another one without any help. But even then they didn't agree on what they said. The high priest stood up in the council and asked Jesus, Why don't you say something in your own defense? But don't you hear the charges you are making against you? But Jesus kept quiet and didn't say a word. The high priest asked him another question. Are you the Messiah, the Son of glorious God? Yes, I am. Jesus answered, soon you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right side of God, all powerful and coming with the cloud of heaven. At once the high priest ripped his robe apart and shouted, why do we need more witnesses? You heard him claim to be God. What is your decision? They all agreed he should be put to death. Some of the people started spitting on Jesus. They blindfolded him, hit him with their fists, and said, tell us who hit you. Then the guard took charge of Jesus and beat him. Peter says he doesn't know Jesus. While Peter was still in the courtyard, a servant girl of the high priest came up and saw Peter warming himself by the fire. He started at him and said, you are with Jesus from Nazareth. Peter replied, that isn't true. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any idea what you mean. He went out to the gate and a rooster crowed. The servant girl saw Peter again and said to the people standing there, this man is one of them. No, I'm not, Peter replied. A little while later, some of the people said to Peter, you certainly are one of them. You're a Galilean. This time Peter began to curse and swear. I don't even know the man you are talking about. At once the rooster crowed a second time. Then Peter remembered that Jesus had told him, before a rooster crows twice, you will say 3 times, then you don't know me. So Peter started crying. Amen.